You're listening to The Hardpoint with Onexpunchxdad and Code Rome's.
Welcome back to the Hardpoint episode number 30, baby. My name is Josh. I go by Onexpunchxdad online, and as you can probably tell, Cody, who goes by Code Rome's online, is not with us this week. He and his wife are in the throes of baby having, so we wish them all the best in what they're doing and a speedy delivery and all that. But as a special treat this week, I am joined by a dear friend of mine, a fellow content creator in the military economy ecosystem, if you will. Great guy who goes by the name of Kagan Dunlap. Welcome to the show, Kagan.
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm well, man.
I appreciate you having me here.
Dude, I'm amped. It was kind of a last minute thing. Cody's kind of the baby thing kind of kicked into high gear quicker than we anticipated, and I was like, "Hey, man, you don't need to worry about this week. Just give me the go ahead to bring a co-pilot in." And he was like, "Full send, man, absolutely." And your name came to the top of my mind, and I was like, "Let's get Kagan in here, man. Let's go a few rounds with Kagan Dunlap." So I'm glad you're here, man.
Well, I appreciate you shooting the invite out. I'm always down to do this kind of thing. Like, I like talking to people. Like you were saying earlier before we came on, is that you feel like you've already met me or feel like you kind of know me a little bit just because we're in the same kind of spaces and stuff. The feeling's definitely mutual. I've been watching your stuff. I've been watching your stuff long before I ever really got heavy into it, and I loved everything that you did, like the whole chain of command, what's it called? Like, what was it? What's like the office stuff where you pretend to be the battalion commander or the XO and
Staff Wars.
The Staff Wars. Yeah. The Staff Wars stuff. And like all the great parody videos you've done over the years, man, like you've been crushing it. And, definitely, as far as like a content creator is concerned, like you're at the top of like, some of the most creative people I know for sure, especially in our community. You know what I mean? Like everything's super original and like super creative. Like in a lot of ways, I think you're a lot more creative than I am. I'm definitely not in my mind, I'm not like anywhere near your level of creativeness or creativity. So I definitely think that's a really cool, thing that you've done with all your content in general.
I really appreciate that, man. Like I just want to pause for a second because I'm at that age and you're about my age. I think we're in we'll call it the same bracket. The encouragement of other men my age is gold nuggets to me. So it really does like I fully enjoyed having my my biscuit buttered just now. No, that really does mean. It really does mean so much, man, and what you've done, and just kind of highlighting just the military life in general, and kind of pull, again, kind of helping us pull back that curtain, right, and have a really transparent look of what is it really like to be in the military, not just in the Army or the Marine Corps, but what does it look like to put the uniform on and to talk about that experience. So that's high praise coming from you, brother, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Well,
yeah, we're both about the same age. I'll be 38 this year, so I'm a little older than most of the guys that we talk to, but that's also because it took me a long time to get in the military because I was a troubled youth, as some people like to say.
My man, you're in good company on that one because I also was a troubled youth. I actually I have a GED. I dropped out of high school. I was straight up like, this is not for me. I'm not having a good time. Dropped out, did some crimes, and then it was like, I better figure it out or I'm going to end up in jail or worse. So I'm with you on that. Now I gotta ask, because I just turned 36 the other day, like Friday, I think.
Yeah.
Do you feel at 38? Because this is definitely like I'm in that window of like, am I old? I don't think I'm old. I don't. When people are like, "Are you old?" My default answer is no. When you at 38, when they're like, "Are you old?" Are you starting to lean like, yeah?
Well, so I'll tell you, like, you're as old as you feel. Like I like to think that, yeah, I'm probably considered old. Like if you take your average Gen Zer and you're like, hey, do you think this guy looks old? They're probably going to be like, yeah, he looks old because I have like a bunch of gray hair and I say dad jokes and things that they might not find funny, but like people like you and I might find funny because we're like around the same time frame. Like I'm guessing you're born in 88 and I'm born in 86.
Yep.
So it's like we probably have a similar sense of humor. Grew up on some of the same cartoons in the mornings and stuff like that.
Sure.
Had some of the same presidents we remember when we were kids.
Yeah. We would have. I think if I was a freshman, you probably would have been a junior or a senior at that.
Probably.
In high school, yeah.
Yeah, I graduated in 05, so which was a very weird time, by the way, because I grew up like when I was in high school, I was in 9th grade for 9/11, and I remember I was in like algebra 2 during that, and that was in New Bern, North Carolina at the time. And then I moved to Fayetteville right after that in 2002. And so I was in Fayetteville living there going to high school 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006 was when I just had gotten out of high school.
Right.
And like everybody's parents were in the army because I was in, obviously Fayetteville, you got Fort Liberty there. At the time, it was Fort Bragg, right? So, like, that was where I lived during the height, like the peak of the Iraq War. So it was a really weird place.
Can I jump in?
For sure.
Are your parents military? Are you a military brat, or were you just happen to be in Fayetteville?
No, my parents, neither of them have served. All three of I have 2 brothers. All 3 of us have served. I joined the Marine Corps. My youngest brother joined the Marine Corps the same year that I joined the Marine Corps. He went to boot camp. He served 4 years, got out. Now he's a full-time student at Western Carolina University. My middle brother is in the Army National Guard, actually, and he's still in the Army National Guard, and he is like a networking specialist, like an IT guy. I think he went to Fort Gordon for his job school.
Okay.
But yeah, no, my parents were both civilians. Like my mom is an Episcopal priest, to give you an idea of like, it's like super interesting background, but that might explain a little bit why I was like kind of a troublemaker when I was a kid, just because, that typically happens with
preacher's
kids. Yeah, exactly. So very stereotypical, life choices, but I mean, I ended up turning out okay. Obviously, like, I mean, I'm probably like one of the most, straight edge people you'll ever meet anywhere now, because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't lie, cheat, steal, I don't do anything like illegal. Like I don't play any games anymore because I'm just too old for it. And I had my fair share of hardships that were self-induced because of making decisions and stuff like that when I was younger. So like now my life is very regimented. I'm kind of a creature of habit. Like I just work, I go to the gym, and I, play video games. Maybe I like to watch anime sometimes, and I keep my life very simple for various reasons, but mainly because I just, I wasted a lot of time doing stupid stuff when I was a kid. So like, that's just kind of where I'm at now.
There's value in that, man. I think we'll get into it a little bit later, but there's elements as you get older, like that you feel like kind of get thrust upon you especially in, your 30s, where it's like, I get very defensive when people try to, like, I'm in the military, right? My entire life is people telling me what to do, essentially. And no matter how much I want to inflate, like, I'm a warrant officer, I do what I want, or I'm this, I do what I want. At a certain extent, if someone's like, you need to be here at 6 a.m. in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, I have to be there. So, but even removed from that, like, there is an element of like keeping it simple and keeping it predictable is not even just like useful from an organizational standpoint. It's useful from a, like, I've started to view it from a wellness point, like a personal sense of health and wellness, like keeping my schedule as predictable and as negotiable as possible is really been a boon for me. But I get what you're saying, man. I think keeping it compartmentalized and keeping it kind of predictable and segmented like that absolutely pays dividends in the end, baby.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I like to keep my life simple too, because I'm too old for, any crazy stuff happening to me because of poor decisions I've made or something like that. So I try to just make good choices. I keep my life simple. I meal prep. I cook at my house. I try to save money when I can. I'm trying to pay off debt still, like everybody else. I'm like just. I mean, I like to shoot guns. I like to do all kinds of other cool stuff too, outside of just like sitting in my house. But I also enjoy like being in my home, because I worked hard to get to a place where I can live in a house and afford to live in a house, even if I don't own the house, like renting a house, like just having a home to stay inside of. Cause like you and I both lived in the barracks. Like we lived the barracks life. I get how that is. Like I fully appreciate like the position I'm in where I can come home, I can go to a gym off base, I can come back home, I can cook some dinner, like, and relax in my house and play with my cats and stuff or whatever.
Absolutely. Fellow cat enjoyer. I love that.
Yeah.
No, that's great, man. I think that's wise, honestly. We'll jump into a segment here. This is we kind of talked about it before the show. Cody and I like to gush about the things that we've been enjoying in our life. Fictitious, non-fictitious, workout, food, doesn't matter. It's called What Are You Crushing? We were supposed to come up with like a musical cue many months ago. We never did it. One of these days we're going to come up with it. But yeah. What are you crushing, man? What has been your jam the past several weeks?
Past several weeks, I think one of the things. I mean, it's kind of weird because it's maybe a very niche thing to say, but I'm trying to do more work with other people in the content creation community. Ideally, like I realized over the past year that a lot of my content and a lot of the videos that I've made, even regardless of what they're about, it's been just me doing stuff by myself, in my house or like in my, wherever I'm at, and I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy doing things with people. Like I'm a social creature, but I also like I don't go out. Like I don't go out to bars. I don't like to go out and socialize that way. So I'm trying to find new ways that I can socialize with people that are in the same community, but also like maybe find ways where I can capitalize on that by creating videos about it and doing stuff that's like positive in some way, whether we're like shooting guns or we're just making some silly content or teaching somebody something about something like military related or, doing podcasts, for example. Like I started a podcast too last year that I've got like 4 episodes that are being edited right now that are still not out, but there's like, I think there's 8 episodes out total, and I've got it on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. And I've come to find I really enjoy doing it. It's expensive because I'm footing the bill for like the editor and for everything like that. Cause I just don't have a podcast studio. So it's very expeditionary.
Sure.
But I enjoy talking to people. I like getting to know people. I like hearing other people's stories, other people's perspectives on stuff. I like to learn things about like what their field of expertise is, and, so that's been something I really enjoy. But then I also want to do a lot more work with other creators because that's fun. Like it's fun to travel around and meet other cool people that are in the community that do create stuff, and like they're all varying types of creators. Like some are gun tubers, some are, more into like, just entertainment type stuff. And I think that the one thing, and I talked to Kelsey Sheeran about this on her podcast, I think in 2022, when I was fortunate enough to sit down with her and talk about it. Like, I think as a community in general, we can do a really good job of like lifting each other up by, getting together with other people in the community to create content or create unique videos for people that inevitably will like help raise us all up. Because for example, like if I traveled to a certain area and a buddy of mine has a podcast and he also does this whatever given type of content, we can go shoot a video on, out doing whatever he normally does. We can shoot a podcast with him. I can shoot a video, and then we can both post a video on our separate YouTubes, and it'll cross pollinate, and it helps them because they're getting a video out of it and they get more content to put out that's entertaining and engaging and brings more people in. And then I also get to post one that does the same thing for me, and we both kind of benefit out of it. And it kind of like, it's like the rising tide lifts all ships kind of idea, like the more we all work together to do things that are positive for the community, whether it be just entertaining people that have a similar sense of humor, or people that know a little bit about like the military or like things that we do, or folks that may not know anything, but it might pique their interest because they see a couple of folks that they enjoy both of those people. And it's just a cool opportunity, I think, that we all have to be able to like work together. And not only is it's considered work, because I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, like, if you get to post videos about it on, your various platforms, it's a possibility you could make, you could help pay for food with it, or pay some bills with it, or whatever, if it monetizes. And, so it helps them, it helps me. And then it also raises awareness and cross-pollinates subscribers and followers across all the platforms for both the people, because the algorithm kind of recognizes that these two people were in the same vicinity, and somehow it just like feeds their content out to similar folks that like the same kind of stuff. And
sure.
It just kind of helps everybody, and that's like something I think is super valuable. And that's also why I think it's important to like set a good example for people. And also, be a good person, be a good human being, because especially in a community that's rather small, like there's a lot of people, everybody talks. And like, if you're a jerk or, like an ass, like you're gonna make a reputation for yourself for being like that. And
Yeah.
I want to do everything I can to, like, it's not about the money necessarily. It's about like the message, and about like the building the relationships and helping lift people up and supporting each other. Because like first off, like nobody hates on vets and active duty more than vets and active duty, as I'm sure you're very well aware of at this point, and intimately so. But nobody also loves and helps support vets and active duty the same way that vets and active duty do too. So it's two sides of the same coin. We have a real ability to enhance each other's lives and to support each other. And that's kind of like what I prefer to do. I stay out of all the crap talking. I stay away from all that stuff. I try to keep my thoughts and opinions, if they're negative in nature, to myself. And I try to just keep it positive, keep it lighthearted, because life is hard, man, especially for people that are in the military. It's like it's a hard gig. It's not easy for you to do, like for family and for friendships and relationships, as you're very intimately aware of. You've got a family, like it's hard, and life is hard enough as it is for me without me adding to it. So if I can make it a little bit better, or make somebody laugh, or inform people about something that affects us because it may be like geopolitics related or something, like, then I feel like that's cool. Or if I can work with somebody and like help elevate their platform, because we cross pollinate followers and subscribers and we work together. It's like I look at it like, and I had somebody actually comment this on a video the other day. They said, oh man, it's kind of like Marvel when they do a team up and they had like a crossover episode or something, where it's like their favorite hero from this one series did some work with another hero from this other series, and they got together and they did some cool work together. And it's like, it's cool. People like that kind of stuff too, so I don't know. I really appreciate that kind of thing. So I want to get more into doing more work with other people if I can, whenever possible, and just like leaving a good reputation and leaving a good, I guess leaving a good impact on people.
Yeah.
As to like, oh man, it was nice working with that guy. It was cool getting together with him.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's always, my thing is being in the military, it's a drag. It absolutely, like if you want it to frame it as being anything, it's very easy to say like this is a drag. And I do feel like a lot of kids, especially the younger kids coming in, their instinct when trying to capture their military experience and make that into like, oh, I'm going to be a military content creator, I'm going to make military content, and you look at the things that they're highlighting it and the way they're highlighting it, it very much does kind of, it reflects in this way of like, this just seems like you work at a place that you hate, essentially. Yeah. And it's challenging for as you probably know, to be transparent about those things that make it a drag, right? Those things that are like, okay, yeah, it sucks that we have to pull staff duty occasionally. It sucks that we have to stand in a rectangle for 15 minutes every morning for whatever reason or whatever, you know what I mean? Like things like that don't make sense explaining it to a regular person. So after 16 years of doing it, it's still to me is like, make this make sense to me, right?
Or if we have to get to the armory 3 hours prior to the hike to draw weapons and
yeah. But I'm your boss, and I want to make sure you're there an hour prior to that 3 hours. So let's make it 4. Let's bump those numbers up, right? So stuff like that is a prime example, right? So yeah, it is absolutely like as a content creator in that ecosystem to try to be transparent about the things about it that suck and that aren't great, but also to shed light on the things that really have made it a good experience for me and that really do make the military life a contender for, I mean, you think back on like COVID and you think about like student loan debt, you think about just unemployment in general. I have friends with master's degrees who went several years without a job. You know what I mean?
Same.
And a lot of them, even after they got a job, like our salaries were somewhat comparable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it a lot of work? Like, is the work to pay ratio, is it accurate? I don't know. I'm not here to argue that, but it is a unique way, I think, and I think that's why the military hasn't swept in, the DoD hasn't swept in to just shut the whole party down for us. Because it really does create an opportunity for people to see like, hey, these, and it's not just, privates and specialists doing this. You're a first lieutenant right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't want to put that out there if you're trying to keep it close to the vest or anything.
No. That's fine. I mean, I post so much of my stuff. Yeah. I'm a first now.
Okay.
So.
Nice. Congrats.
I appreciate it.
I'm a CW3 if it makes you feel any better. But having people who've been in the system for a long time kind of come in and say like, hey, yeah, it's not great. We have to deal with a lot of dumb stuff, but also the dividends it's paid in my life. Like I said, I have a GED. I was a nobody. I came into the Army as an E1, nothing, no college degree, nothing, to 7 years later, I was at Walks to be a candidate to become a warrant officer.
Look at you now.
Look at you now, baby, right? There are opportunities here, and even you troubled youth, you said it yourself. There are opportunities here in the military for people that society would say don't deserve them. And I think that's what makes our voice important, is because not only are we just in it and we're just surviving, we're thriving in this ecosystem. So I think it is an important piece. You mentioned real quick, and I'll kick it back to you on this one. Meeting up with other content creators and interacting with other content creators that you enjoy. I've gotten the opportunity to meet dudes that make content that I adore. You know what I mean? That in my mind they were straight up internet celebrities, and you meet them and they're just bros. You know. How do you feel in those situations? There's certain times where I meet up with other creators and I feel like the instinct is we need to make a video, we need to make a piece of content, we need to do something with this interaction. A lot of times, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, sometimes all I want to do is put the phone away and just be in that moment with them, because there's a lot of like envy I have for creators who maybe live up the road from each other and are able to have bro interactions, like friendly interactions, without the looming thing of like, well, this is a very big opportunity, and if we don't make a video, no matter how good or dumb it is, it'll be a missed opportunity. Do you feel like that when you meet up with other creators, or do you feel that pressure of like, I would rather just sit and have a meal or have a coffee with this person rather than like, oh, we have to go outside and make sure we can, do this and get an idea together and hodgepodge it? Or how do you walk into those interactions with other creators?
So I think one thing that really helped me for that was going out to the creator range day at Demolition Ranch. And the reason I say that is because when I first got there the first time in December, I met so many folks that were just like I was like the smallest creator there, like as far as like size of following and subscribers and all that stuff. Like these guys, everybody there had like millions of subscribers on YouTube, and they're all making like, God tier levels of money, and they've been doing it for like 10 years plus. They know what they're doing. They got dedicated editors that they're paying on salary. They've got dedicated thumbnail creator teams. They've got people that they've got whole logistics teams to put together events for different things.
Can't
and
relate.
I was like, yeah, no, I was like straight up, I was nervous the first time I went out there, because like, especially meeting people like Brandon Herrera and Cody, Donut Operator, and a lot of these other guys that are just like, they've been doing this for 10 years. Or meeting Matt Carricker, the guy at like Demolition Ranch himself. Like that dude's got like 20+ million subscribers across platforms. And he's like super ultra famous. And I was like very nervous to meet these guys, because I was like, oh my God, dude, like if I make a bad first impression, they're never going to want me to come back here, and like I'll never be able to interact with them or do some work with them down the road or anything like that. And then I realized, like after I got there, I was like, I met them, and like once I kind of broke that seal, I realized they were all like super cool, chill dudes. They were just like there to have a good time and shoot guns and joke around and just have fun and get a bunch of people together, and they were super cool. Everybody's super nice. And then I also had opportunities later, and I talked to Matt Carricker about this later. I was like, do you feel like every time somebody comes up to you to talk to you is because they want something from you, or like do you kind of just wait to see what they're going to talk to you about? Because another thing that goes through my head is that I don't want to be known as the guy that just wants something from everybody, because I don't want to seem like I'm just leeching or like begging for like clout or just chasing clout either, and there's a difference. Like, hey, like I think if you reach out and you're like, hey man, I'd love to do some videos with you, I'd love to shoot some content with you, like do you have any interest in doing something like that? And they're like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool, let's do it. And like they're down for it, then that's cool. But I also don't want to like be known as the guy that just does that and doesn't just want to chill either. It's like I guess it's a very fine line to walk, and it's tough. Like it's super hard to navigate because like I'm a very introspective person. I think I spend a lot of time inside my own head, like thinking, oh, should I have said that, or should I have not have said that, or I wonder if they think I'm like a douchebag, or I wonder if they think that I'm just here because I want to leech off their cloud, or like if I wonder if they actually like think I'm a cool dude, or whatever. And so like now I'm getting to a point where like I'll reach out to people like that are in the community to like do collaboration with, but I typically don't reach out to people that are like super famous that do collabs, but because I don't want to be that guy. I feel like it's easy to get branded as like, hey, this dude's just running around trying to leech cloud off of people. And there's a lot of them out there. And I'm sure there's probably people out there that still think that of me, even if I don't like go around always doing that. But that's something I'm always concerned about because like I genuinely want to be able to like first off pick people's brains to see like what they did that was successful for them so that I can learn from it and then try to like implement that in my own, content creation journey, if you will.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me because it seems like you're in a very similar phase in your kind of content creator journey that I am, where you are starting like you've put yourself out there, you've made you have a body of work, we'll call it. You've put your stuff out there and you've taken a step back to say like, who am I in relation to the other people that are doing it? Who am I to the people who are watching it? What does any of this mean to them? What is their interaction with me, Vice, their interaction with these people who the people who made me want to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting and honestly kind of difficult place to be as a content creator because you start to examine and ask those questions that are sometimes kind of painful. And when I say painful, I mean, when you look at like a Brandon Herrera, or any of those guys who you mentioned who straight up have a staff who is helping them produce their content. Obviously, they're the face of their content, but there is, I mean, a fucking thumbnail guy. Like, get real. I'm definitely not. I don't have a thumbnail guy. You know what I mean? But when you start to kind of juxtapose yourself with them, that it's difficult to hold those comparisons because then you start to consider your own adequacy in terms of like, do you know what I mean? Like you start to take inventory of what you're doing in a way that if the scale tips toward I'm not doing enough, then your valuation of yourself can become kind of skewed. Does that make sense? I've certainly been there.
Yeah. Well, and also part of it is like, hey, they are in a different part in their content creation path than you are, or than I am. You know what I mean? Like, so where I'm at might be where they were on year 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Like they might have been there like 7 years ago, but now they're 7 years, past that, and they're like their 10-year, 11-year mark. And they're fully set up. They got a full, like you said, a full staff. They got people doing everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're viewing you the same way that you are viewing yourself based on what your interpretation of their relationship with you is. And I'm very much like you. Like I'm extremely critical of myself. Like I'm so hypercritical of myself that I don't need anyone else to be hypercritical of me because I am more hypercritical of myself enough that it makes up for it if even nobody was hypercritical of me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
I've had many nights where it's like sleepless night because I was like, having like a midlife crisis in my brain about like, am I doing a good job, or do people actually like or enjoy the content I'm putting out? Like, am I just putting out a bunch of crap? Is this good enough? Because like part of me, I like doing some of the stuff that I do. Like I like the informative stuff. I like teaching people things. I like making people laugh. I also don't think I'm very funny. Like I think there's a lot of other content creators out there that are a lot funnier than me, like yourself, Mandatory Fun Day, you know, Buttersworth, like all these other guys. Like there's a lot of people out there that personally feel are way funnier than I am. And I think in a lot of the times, like some of the biggest dude creators that are out there are super funny and like entertaining and tell a good story. And I'm always like trying to like think about like, how can I make this better? How can I fix this? How can I improve upon this? And I do compare myself to a lot of people as I'm going through this thing, because I'm like I said, I'm so hypercritical of myself and the things that I put out.
Sure.
And like, there's steps I'm taking to improve upon it. Like there's a lot of different things that I'm trying to do that I haven't really fully implemented yet.
It's funny, and not to cut you off, but it's funny because I have had the same, I don't want to call it a crisis, but I've had the same like thought, but looking at your content and being like, I'm not informative enough. Like I can tell a joke and I can be a goober, but like, what are people learning? What are people walking away with? Like people go to Kagan's page and they have at least an awareness of like the state of the world and like what's going on politically and you know, militarily around the world. People come to my page and it's like, this dude's a clown. You know what I mean? Like he's raiding uniforms or doing whatever he's doing. It's a funny observation in my mind to see how we kind of view each other, like kind of peeking behind. It's funny. We did that comedy show and Austin came down and Viva La Vargas came down and we had a comedy show, and the whole time as each of us was going on, we were kind of like peeking through the back curtain, like, what kind of jokes is he telling? What is he doing?
What is he doing in there?
What's he building in there?
Kind of sandcastles he's building.
And it is good that we have that transparency with each other. Like we have kind of our group chat that we have where we all kind of like talk and contextualize our contribution to the thing, whatever the fucking thing is. But we all we have an opportunity to bounce that off each other and just see like, hey, how is what I'm doing, you know, effective for me, you know what I mean? And a lot of times the feedback from that group has been really a powerful boon, I think, as a creator, to be able to go to other creators that are kind of in the same space doing different things, and to just kind of see like, hey, does this seem like something I should make? Does it seem like something I would make? You know, you think it's going to hit?
Yeah. That's funny you should say that though, man. Like that means a lot. Like hearing that from you, like that's why I know you and I are so similar, because you're like, oh man, maybe I'm not informative enough. And I'm like, dude, my content is so trash. Like One Punch Dad is so much more original than me and like so much funnier than me and like such a much better creator than I am.
I will tell you that if I ever tried to sit in your seat and try to be like, oh, well, let's go to the West Bank. My followers would be like, tell a joke. Hey, bring in Krampton.
Say something funny, man.
Yeah, juggle some balls or something. Get out of here. Boo. Yeah, they wouldn't have it, man. Where's
my funny man?
Yeah, I'd be lampooned for that.
Dude.
Hey,
well, that's like when I try to be funny, like my followers are like, they're like, this is a little, I mean, sometimes you're funny, but this wasn't really it. I'm like, dang, man. And I'm like, crap. I thought, like in my head, this 2-year-old bathroom humor joke was extremely funny, and I sent it to my wife, and she said it was funny too. So why don't you think it's funny?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You got to give the people what they want, I guess, man.
I guess, man.
Hey, all right. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. I just laughing at this comment. I made a video. Somebody said something terrible to me in one of my videos, and I made a video of it. Like, you know how you can respond to a comment with a video? Right? Like this one guy was like, you're still the worst reporter ever. And then he put F Dutch bag. Like he misspelled douchebag. And so I just recorded a video that was 15 seconds long of just me like giving him the thumbs up straight up. And everybody's like, the comments are just absolutely eviscerating this guy.
Yeah.
Like, bro changed his username so fast after seeing this. He said, I had no idea you were Dutch. And then he's like, bro has a smartphone. And or what did he say? He said, smartphone and still misspelling.
Yeah. Those are the easy ones, man. That actually, now that I'm back here, that actually does kind of allude to kind of an interesting thing, because I know when I first got on the platform, I had no context for like, I'm going to put myself out on the internet, and you're telling me people might not like me. They might be awful to me. They might want to, make fun of my teeth or something.
Yeah.
And I think my initial impulse, because I did the like video reply, like, yeah, well, fuck you, buddy. Like, I did that a lot to the point where it was like, I don't think, because I realized especially in the early days of like quick form, like TikTok, Instagram Reels, whatever, I was like, I fucking hate watching those videos. Like anytime someone's like responding to a comment and trying to like shut down a hater, even if the hater was like dead wrong, right? Calling you a Dutch bag. It was like, I don't, that's not what I want to watch. And so
I don't want to watch that either.
I did eventually kind of like phase it out. Like there's a few like outlier instances where I feel like it is kind of entertaining to see like just someone who thought they were going to do something with a comment, to see them ultimately like get dunked on. But I think in the early days, there were so many people, there were a lot of creators. I was like, oh, this person just waits for someone to comment something nasty, and that's their whole content stream, is they just jump in and reply, and that's their videos. Do you, you talked about like dealing with like hate from within the community, like veterans and currently serving people. Is that something that caught you off guard, or like coming into, or like people might fucking hate what I'm doing, but here we go, like, or what, did it catch you off guard, and what was kind of your initial response to stuff like that when you got your first hate?
Yeah, so the first like bits of hate was like, I kind of knew it was coming. I mean, everybody I saw that was big on social media in any facet were getting hate from different sides, because people, I don't know, I guess they have various reasons for hating a person. People hate seeing other people successful. Sometimes people think that, oh, this person must be making all this money, and they hate that because maybe that person's having a hard time financially or something. There's also people out there that just like, they just are super unhappy with their lives, and they like to just hate on people on the internet because maybe it gives them some sort of sense of control over their life when they don't really have any control over their actual life. There's a lot of reasons that go into it. Maybe it could be jealousy. Maybe it could be like, I don't know, maybe they just don't like you for whatever reason. And everybody gets it. Like, literally everybody in the community gets hated on. Like Jocko Willink had a bunch of people make videos hating on him over the past like couple months or something. I think I'm sure Donut Operators got hate. Brandon Herrera's getting hate. I'm getting hate. I'm sure you've gotten hate. Mandatory Fun Day gets hate. Buttersworth gets hate. Habitual Line Crosser probably gets people hating on him, trying to tell him, like, say things about him, nasty things. There's like, everybody gets hate, and honestly, the hardest part for me was, and I can't talk details on it just because I don't want to, I'm not interested in doxing people or like skylining people for things they've done. Like, if they're going to get caught doing things, then they'll get caught naturally of their own accord doing it, and somebody else will do it. I'm not interested in being that guy that just like goes around talking trash about people in the community. But I've been like, I've been directly impacted in a very negative way by individuals that I trusted, like trusted and like felt very close to, like as if they were like part of my family, in the community. And
Damn.
I've talked to a very small handful of people, including my wife, about the situation. And I keep it very much to myself. I keep it private. I don't talk about it. I don't tell people who they are. I don't I'm not interested in spreading rumors about stuff. I'm not interested in getting into pissing contests. But it hurt.
Sure.
I was very deeply hurt by it because it was somebody that I trusted, and you know, somebody that I felt was like a very close friend, and you know, things, whatever happened, and I found out that this particular person has been, you know, very hateful to tons of people and spread tons of rumors and like tried to ruin my reputation in all kinds of ways. And that's just one example. There's a couple examples, but I'm not going to mention any names or any of that stuff. But that was real hard, man. Like that, especially because like I was so close with these people, you know, and that hurt a lot more because I was already close with them, you know, and I was like, I felt like these people were like really good friends.
Right.
And, you know, there was nothing that could have prepared me for that. And unfortunately, as a result, like now I now I overthink things even more because I am so paranoid that somebody else is going to betray me in this way again. And it's like, it's very hard for me to allow myself to like get really close with people, or like tell people, you know, things that I'm planning on doing as far as content creation or individuals I'm going to work with. Like, I'm so like, I'm like, I've got like these walls up now because I'm, you know, I don't want to get, I guess, hurt again. It's weird because it's like almost like when you're in the dating scene and you put up walls because you don't want a little girl to hurt your feelings and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it's like, kind of like that.
It absolutely resonates though, because this is something that I feel like as men just doesn't get talked about enough. But like making friends in your 30s is fucking hard. And it's even before, like, you know, whatever, the whole Onexpunchxdad, Kagan Dunlap thing happened to you or me, like making friends wasn't easy then. You know what I mean? Like it was very difficult for me when someone was like, hey, who are your friends? You know what I mean? Be like, one hand, maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Counting these people. And absolutely, like, you know, it's everything from like the just kind of like harmless weirdness of like friends from like high school maybe or whatever that like were not nice to you or were absolutely like not cool to you growing up, being like, hey, saw your video, man, how you doing, how's your family, like fuck do you care? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like, bro, you were nasty to me when we were kids. What the
or at best you didn't give a shit that I existed until you saw that video. Like people, I haven't really had anyone come looking for a handout, thankfully, because I don't have a lot to hand out, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Neither do I.
You know, but yeah, it's you know, people, you know, the biggest one for me, I'll put it to you like this, and you talk a lot about you know, like I said, your content definitely leans a little bit more like, hey, here's what's happening, this happened. You know, like one specific example, not to get anything that's too like divisive or terrible, but when the guy, the airman, lit himself on fire in front of the White House, right? Terrible thing. That's about as far into that as I want to go. Why I mention it is the number of people who messaged me directly, commented, and were like, where's your video about this? Say something about this. You need to say something about this. You have to. And it's people kind of insisting that I throw my hat in the ring because they feel like, and I know for you, it's probably got to be more difficult because, and if I'm not mistaken, to correct me if I'm wrong, you did do a video kind of reporting on that, but you didn't necessarily come in as Kagan and say like, well, here's what Kagan thinks about it. You just kind of said, hey, this happened this time. This, you know, this was kind of the result. But do you get?
I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about that after this.
No. Yeah. Please, by all means.
Yeah. So I mean, so as soon as I saw it, like, because I like to, as soon as something happens, I like to be like, hey, this is something that happened, and I try to give as much of an unbiased perspective on it as possible, because one of the things I've noticed is that everybody is so sick and tired of watching mainstream media. you know, because
yeah.
it's just there's so much spin in whichever direction. I don't care what direction it is.
Yeah.
There's some sort of a spin.
What does this mean for the presidential election type shit?
Right. What does this mean for Indiana Jones finding the Dead Sea Scrolls
Yeah,
or whatever?
exactly,
You know?
yeah.
How is this going to impact
Will
the
Nick-
next episode of Rick and Morty?
Will Nick Cage steal the Declaration of Independence? Tune in tonight at 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, look, I'm not here to like, I don't want to like convince people to think a certain way. I want people to be able to like make their own decisions. I think an informed public is the way you want it. You want people to be informed, and you don't, which is also, that means that there's a big responsibility to make sure that I'm not saying something or interpreting something because it may not be what I interpreted it as. So like, if it's like, hey, this dude did this thing and that's all I know, then that's all I'll say. You know, be like, hey, okay, this is what happened. And I made a video about that, not saying anything about any of it, not interpreting it, not saying, hey, this is why he did it, not saying this is what it's about. Like, all I said was, hey, this happened at this time on this day at this location.
Right.
And then that was the end of the video. And I was getting bombarded by mad hate from like all different directions, like mad hate. And it was gross. I was just like, and I was getting mad, like hateful DMs about it too. I was like, bro, I literally just said, this is what happened. This is where it happened. And this is when. I didn't say why. I didn't say why he was doing it. That's not up to me. I wasn't inside of his head. This is what he said. That's it. You know, and I left it at that because I was like, I'm not trying to interpret this. People can make up their own minds, right?
Yeah.
But still got mad hate for it, and it was going viral. It was starting to blow up, and I was like, you know what? This isn't worth it. It's just, you know, I'm just gonna sit this one out because it's just too volatile. People are too angry about this stuff, and they can't like think rationally. They're just like lashing out on the internet, like, you know. And so I just deleted the video. I deleted it from all my platforms. Just removed it. I was like, I'm not gonna even talk about this. I just took it out and then went about business as usual and made a bunch of other videos that day about other stuff.
Do you feel
you know.
like, so, because I know, like, obviously, like, and we said we were going to get into this. I'm not trying to go into that territory necessarily. Just kind of your approach to it with stuff like Israel Palestine, or even on a weirder level, which is like blows my mind that this is divisive at all. But the Ukraine Russia issue in terms of being an American, like, do you have people who are pushing you to swoop in with your 2 cents, your hot take on it, and just say like, hey, do you think they're right or do you think they're wrong? Do you feel that pressure when you're making that type of content?
I mean, so like, I'm sure that I've gotten, and here's the weird thing is like, I've made tons of videos about the war in Ukraine, like tons of stuff.
Sure.
Just like talking about, hey, this is what happened in this video. This is the thing that's going on. This is what type of vehicle that was. This is the type of weapon system they're using. This is the max effective range of it or whatever. Or this is like what I'm hearing this was about. Or this is what I'm hearing happened in this video. And this is what this is showing.
Just generally just keeping it informative and relatively objective. Is what I observe in your content.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. And to be totally transparent, like I have a lot of friends that have fought over there with the Ukrainians, like a lot of foreign legion volunteer guys, like guys I've served with have fought over there with them. But I try to keep it like as straightforward and just informative. I've had folks that have said that I've shilled for both sides. I've had people that have said I've shilled for both sides, and like I've been very unbiased and very like just informative generally of stuff. And like there's certain videos I'm like, oh, this was kind of cool, and maybe the video happened to be of Ukrainians, and then guys think I'm shilling for them, and I'm like, no, I'm just like being informative, and I think this was a good video, or I think this is cool, an interesting video to see. Or it's like if I post a video about Ukrainians doing something, then they take that as, hey, I'm being partial to them or something. Right. Now, I do have a friend who's a civilian nurse that's over there working with the Ukrainians to like teach them TCCC and like medical stuff. And And I've tried to help support her because her sister's an active duty Army lieutenant. I don't remember where she's stationed, but her sister's an active duty Army lieutenant, and I told her I would like help give her sister like kind of a help elevate what she's doing a little bit, because she's just awesome. Trying to help people. Yeah. And so like that kind of stuff, like, and that people misinterpret that as like shilling or whatever, but it's like, hey, look, I'm just trying to help somebody because she's doing stuff that's helping people like medically and like teaching people how to treat wounds and treat injuries and things like that. But most of it I try to stay as objective as I can. I don't get into the politics about it. I mean, like, I've got friends in Ukraine. I've got friends in the Israeli Defense Force. Like, I have a buddy that went down there right after October 7th that was going there as a independent journalist to just like interview a bunch of folks in the IDF. And he said that a whole bunch of the IDF soldiers asked him if he knew me, which was awesome. That was so cool to just to know that there's people across the planet that watch my stuff that I've maybe never met, but we all have so much in common regardless of like where we're at. Like, I've got people in Turkey that probably follow me. I know I've seen in my Instagram, at least, I've got Iranians that follow me, which may or may not be a good thing. Obviously, like, there's some nefarious folks in there, but there's probably also it's probably not 100%, right? I'm sure that there might be onesies and twosies here, just like they're like pro-Western civilization and like the idea of freedom. And I'm sure that there's folks like all over the place like that. I'm sure that I've got people. If we're still allowed to be seen in Russia, there's probably some folks in Russia that follow my stuff. There's definitely Ukrainians that follow it. I got people from England, Ireland, Wales, France, Japan, Germany, Mexico, Australia, Hawaii, Canada, all these other NATO nations and stuff, right? That's like my stuff and interact with it, and it's like, I don't know. I try not, like, again, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but really what it comes down to is I do try to keep it like as impartial as possible, but I don't, just because I'm getting all these like messages about, hey, you need to support this or you need to make a video about this. It's like, I'm not obligated to make a video about anything. Like, if I think, hey, this is a good idea for a video, then I'll make a video about it. Or if it's like, hey, I think this will be beneficial, because I also get a whole lot of people sending me videos of footage from Gaza that are trying to get me to like post it about it and stuff like that. It's like, you have to be careful when it comes to like war-torn stuff, because there is a lot of disinformation probably from all sides, because every side has their own like thing that they want to do and like an agenda that they have, and then like they want people to believe a certain thing, So I've honestly been staying away from,
like the Houthis saying that they blew up the Eisenhower, and it's
definitely
exactly. Not blown up.
No, it's definitely still functioning and everybody's fine. Yeah, like. Now, that's not to say that, hey, these people are constantly all doing this stuff, but it's like, hey, it might be easier for me to stay away from certain things because I'm just not interested in getting into that muddy water of where, like, I don't have a way of verifying if this is actually factual or not somehow altered content that was altered using AI or deep fake stuff. Like, I try to, stick to stuff that's like, hey, this is factual, it's provable, it's verifiable. It's been verified on like a dozen other news sources first, so I know that it's like legitimate. It's not like, hey, this is a huge, screw up. And one example of that could, well, I mean, there's tons of examples of it. But I
remember specifically, like in the early stages of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, the Ghost of Kiev, and all this. It was a thing where I'm saying this. I wanted to believe. I really, legitimately, like the idea that this lone Ukrainian pilot was repelling invaders in a single F-16 or whatever he was in, and was just racking up this massive body count was amazing. And then to go back and realize that a lot of it was like fucking War Thunder footage or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
propaganda.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that's like and it is honestly, and this is stuff that I've kind of talked to our other content creator brethren about, is that's the kind of stuff that for me is well, number one being that I'm a comedian, first of all. Two being that like I don't have the eye, I guess, if that makes sense, to go in and discern and jump through those hoops, because there is so much of, and I'm not trying to make the whole just like, well, I don't know who's telling the truth, the media just you know, I'm really not trying to make it sound like that, but it is very much of like, I think you fall into that category of creator who's going to do the work to say like, this probably isn't accurate. This doesn't really reflect like the capability of this platform that's being represented in the video. Like, but yeah, like as we move into the modern age where AI and deep fake and all that stuff becomes more prevalent, it is terrifying to think that like a story from a war can be completely fabricated and whatever, you know, someone rendered it in Blender, you know what I mean? It's a difficult landscape to negotiate, I think, and I applaud you for having the eye to be able to go in and just be like, look, or not even the eye necessarily, the intellect, because I do think
I make mistakes, dude. I've screwed it up before, and I've been like, okay, I'm deleting this video then. If something comes out and it's like, wait, hey, this is total utter nonsense, I'll do a quick bit of research, try to find out, and then I'm like, oh, there's usually something out there that's like, nope, this was proven to be false, and then I delete it because I'm like, I can't have that. I'm not gonna like push nonsense. Like, if it gets to a point where it's too muddy, I'm just gonna delete it.
But it is crazy too, though, because you've probably had to do that on some videos that made the circuit and were 100%. There's a video that just popped this week. It was an ISIS. Oh my gosh, what happened? An ISIS vehicle getting blown up. And it was from 10 years ago. And it's not a fake video. I don't know why I'm mentioning this, but it's not even a fake video. But the ISIS video blowing up, and it blows way up in the sky, right? And people are seeing this and they're thinking this happened this week. And it happened in whatever, 2014, 2015.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens a lot. Like people will be like, hey, this video is of this location, and it's not of that location. It was recorded in a completely different location at a totally different time.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I'm like, I couldn't do it, man. You know, my understanding of the military is pretty focused, right? Like and thankfully I'm a warrant officer, so I can have I have to understand like how the Army works as a system and how we operate at my level. But I very much like, in terms of like what's out there and the vast swath of capability that our partners and our enemies have is so much to me. It's honestly kind of daunting. So I kind of try to like, and there's also a part of me too, like bringing it back to being a content creator. I try to keep work and the fun, right, the video making, separate. And so, you know, like habitual line crosser, fellow content creator, great dude, fellow air defender, has suggested to me a couple of times, like, hey, make more air defense content, bring your expertise into your content. And I don't know if it's just I built such a firm partition in my mind, but I have a hard time being able to talk about that stuff and still retain my creator identity of like, hey, I'm a goofy guy. Here's the whatever max fire rate of the CRAM system. I just, you know what I mean? Like some of that stuff just doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't square peg round hole type thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And plus, being an air defense guy, there's so much stuff that you're not allowed to talk about too, probably because a lot of it's like secret no form, you know? So like,
Yep.
it's like you would have to do a ton of research to find out what is unclass, what's class, and what you can and can't talk about. And then you would have to put a script together of how you were going to talk about that one thing that you spent like a week researching to make sure that it's not secret no form.
Exactly.
Right?
So
and that takes a lot more time.
It does, like, and time being a big part of it, right? But like, you know, anytime there's a Patriot engagement around the world, I'm aware. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I'm
also
tracking.
yeah, you know what I mean? But like, releasability is huge, and that's part of the reason that I just kind of like, meh, you know what I mean? Like, better play it safe than sorry. But also, like, you know, for me, where the joy that I've found in it is highlighting the simple stuff. You know what I mean? So for me, making jokes about Putin or Kim Jong-un or anything like that, like, feels very out of character for me. But for me to go in and be like, why do the Marines put a globe eagle and angle on their boot, or anchor on the boot? Why do they do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I can do 2 minutes cold on why do they do that? You know what I mean? Like, you know, maybe not. You know what I mean? Like that's right up my alley. It's just like, hey, pointing out something small that we see every day and we don't really talk about, and I'd be like, what? Hey, that's kind of goofy. You know what I mean? It's not.
That's a bit. That's a bit. That's
right
a
there. Bit. You know what I mean? Why you got? Hey, why you got a dog tag in your bootlaces, man? What are you doing?
Yeah. what are you doing, silly piece?
Hey, silly goose. No, that's awesome, man. Hey, if you got some time, man, I was thinking we could do some write-ins. We got some viewers and listeners that write in with some questions. We could run a couple of those if you're down.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Bring those up here real quick. Hey, for anyone listening, if you're new to the show, in the description to this episode, there is a link to our Discord. In our Discord, there's a channel called Questions for Podcast. If you go into that channel, you can leave a question statement if it's salient, if it's fun, if it's a thing that we might want to talk about. We might read it on the show. You might get read.
If it's not inappropriate for all audiences,
it better be doggone appropriate.
Better be proper spelling.
Kagan's making a list and checking it twice. Here's a fun one. We'll lighten it up. We got kind of heavy on this episode, but I know Kagan is a gamer and an enjoyer of pop culture, so he might enjoy this one. This one comes from NC Quantum Glizzy. Holy cow! You're from North
Glizzy.
It's NC. I wonder if that's North Carolina, and you're from North Carolina, right, Kagan?
Yeah, well, not originally, but I've lived in North Carolina for over half my life now. So yeah, I kind of call myself a North Carolinian.
You're de facto North Carolinian.
Yeah, I'm a naturalized North Carolinian.
Very good, very good. A naturalized North Carolinian. NC Quantum Glizzy, North Carolina Quantum Glizzy. I hope that's what the NC stands for. If you could if you could go back in time to re-experience your favorite video game for the first time, what game would you go for? I'm going to answer this one first because I know you know the answer, Kagan. But I absolutely very vividly remember playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time. I was in 4th grade. I was, how old would I have been? I think I was 11 years old, 11 or 12. Borrowed it from a friend because I couldn't get my parents to buy it for me because it was a mature game. But my buddy loaned it to me, and I got to slowly trudge through the first Metal Gear Solid game. Absolutely, still every once in a while pop that thing in and play through it again. But I love Metal Gear Solid 1 so much.
So good. It's so good, man. I still remember playing Metal Gear Solid 1 the first time. I think I was in middle school. I think I was in 7th grade. I think I was in 7th grade at the time. My buddy Joey Belvey had that game, and he was playing it at his house. And I was over there with another friend of mine, James, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Espionage action.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You gotta find the vent. You gotta crawl around. I love it, man.
Dude.
It was a fun experience, specifically on the PS1 era.
Yeah.
What's a game?
You gotta pull the controller out when you're fighting Psycho Mantis and put it into the second port so that he can't find you.
You do. You know, they released it on the Switch recently, and I gotta say, going into a menu and switching the controller to port number 2 just doesn't hit the same as having to get your ass up and physically rotate that controller over. Just doesn't quite hit the same. But I'm happy that I have the ability to carry that game forward into the current generation. What is that for you, man? What's a game that you just have a very early, very treasured memory of?
I would probably say Final Fantasy 3.
3. Wow, that's a
Final
deep cut,
Fantasy
man.
3. Yeah, Final Fantasy 3. Well, so in Japan it was called Final Fantasy 3. Or sorry. In Japan it was referred to as Final Fantasy 6, but in America it was Final Fantasy 3. The whole numbering thing was super weird all the way up until 7.
We missed a few, right? We missed some Fantasies Final in the States, right?
You know, I don't think we missed it completely, but like I know that when they were releasing it, it was just released in Japan in a certain order, and then we didn't get it until later. And so like what was considered Final Fantasy 5 in Japan is Final Fantasy 2 here in America.
Oh, wow.
And what was Final Fantasy 6 over there is actually Final Fantasy 3 over here. So like if you went out to a game store and you bought Final Fantasy 3, it would be what their Final Fantasy 6 was. But it's kind of weird because I've also played Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is like the first Final Fantasy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And that one was, I'm pretty sure that was for Super Nintendo as well. But you only had 2 characters that you could play with at a time. You would have like a 2-character party.
Oh, wow.
And like you beat the whole game with 2 characters. It was very different. That was like one of the first ones I played. But my favorite by far, which I have a bunch of tattoos on me of Final Fantasy 3 specifically, or 6 in Japan, but it's 3 here, because that was like the first one I really got like into the nitty gritty with everything, and it was just like that was really what took off my whole interest in it. Like I still own Final Fantasy 3 in the cartridge and Final Fantasy 2 in the cartridge, but I think my brother has them at his house right now, like the original Super Nintendo cartridges. I'm sure they're probably worth something now, but I'll probably never sell them because they're just like freaking. I mean, you'd never find them anywhere, you know. But it was just like such an impactful game, just because I learned a lot of the English language from it, because there's so much like language that they speak, and you have to read what the characters are saying on the screen. And I would like ask my parents, like, "Hey, what does this word mean?" You know, because they would say something I didn't understand. I actually like learned a lot of English, like a lot of words, and how to read really well from playing that game, because like you have to read what the characters are saying so you can understand what the plot is, you know? So I think that was probably one of the most impactful games of when I was a kid. And that's like, I'm talking like, what year was that? Like 1995, 6, 7.
Yeah, it was way back, man.
Yeah, way, way, way back. I also played a game. I don't know if you ever heard of Earthbound. You heard of Earthbound?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, they used to be called Mother 2. I think it was called Mother 2 originally, or Mother or something like that. But
yeah,
also another iconic Super Nintendo video game that I grew up on. Never got any tattoos of that one, but still very, like, just to give you an example, every time I played Super Smash Brothers, I would always pick Ness because he's like the main character from Earthbound. And it was such a like incredible journey.
There you
the
have
plot was amazing.
Kagan Dunlap, Ness main. Confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, dude, I don't know what it is. And part of it was probably just from that era. Like, dude, the story writing for video games was so unbelievable. It just really was. And it just like, it literally it takes a fat poop on anything that comes out today that's all about microtransactions and multiplayer. Like I just, you know what I mean? I just can't even,
Have you stuck with the Final Fantasy franchise? Have you play? I have admittedly never made it past the first like front 15 of a Final Fantasy game. I do not really care for turn-based combat. Like, hey, I'm gonna select an attack. I'd rather just push A and punch this guy. But
no, like, I get that.
Have you stuck with the franchise? Do you have any like recent or quasi recent Final Fantasy entries that you have enjoyed?
So let me see. There was let me see what the most recent one was, because I bought the most recent one. I
think we're on.
I think it's
16. Is the one? That was the most recent like major entry in Final Fantasy. That came out last year.
XVI, 16. Okay, so God, there's a lot of these games now.
Yeah,
man, it's crazy.
I think
if you look back, let's see. If I look back all the way, it doesn't even have.
Have you played like 7 and 8, like 13, like a lot of these that people hold up as being kind of like the crux of the series? Have you played 7 at all?
Oh yeah. No, I played. I mean, I've got a bunch of. I have a couple of tattoos from Final Fantasy 7 on me. I have Sephiroth tattooed on my forearm, my right forearm.
Oh yeah.
And then, so yeah, Final Fantasy 7 was an epic one, and the remake for it's really good too. I've been playing. I played through the remake. So they're releasing it in parts. I played through part 1 of the remake on PlayStation. Was it PlayStation 5 now? Is that right?
Yeah. Current gen.
Yeah. PlayStation 5. Yeah. So that's really good. Final Fantasy 8, I played through all of that. Loved it. Thought it was good. Definitely. I've replayed through it a couple times. I haven't played it in a long time. It's kind of dated now, so it'd be tough to play through. That'd be kind of like choppy.
Sure.
Final Fantasy 9 was very different. Played through that one. Still enjoyed it. Is very kind of like your typical like folk, like I don't know if you like think about
old school fantasy, kind of like
like very very old school fantasy,
swords and elves and stuff.
Swords and elves, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's very old school. So that wasn't bad. 10 broke and shattered everything. It was just so legendary, like breakthrough, because that was the first PlayStation 2 Final Fantasy that came out.
Yeah,
absolutely wrecked everything. It was so good.
Fully voice acted and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely incredible. And then what was it? 11 came out, which I think was like an online massive multiplayer game. I didn't really play.
I remember that. I played when I was in Iraq. 13 came out, and that was kind of the last regular turn-based Final Fantasy, I think, because then 14 came out, and that one's still going. That's like a big, massive MMO type thing. And then 15 was like
all action.
From what I've played of it, it is essentially it's like Devil May Cry, like you're mashing buttons and you're going up and you're actively like chopping people in the face and stuff. So and that's what I understand about 16 is very much like you are just going and fighting people. Like it's the turn-based piece is pretty much been, which is funny because it seems like that's what was kind of anchoring people to the series. Like I know people to this day that are still going back and playing 7 that don't mind going into a menu to select attack. It's odd to me that they thought like, we gotta edit that stuff out. We just gotta make it more punchy, I guess. But whatever. I'm not a game developer. So.
Remake. So the remake of Final Fantasy VII is turn-based technically, but it's also like live action. So you are like actively selecting what attacks you're going to use. You're actively selecting what magic you're going to cast. You're actively selecting what items you're going to use. And then it's still turn-based. So like you can be running around and trying to avoid the enemies and stuff like that, but you're still kind of like the action where like the actual action takes place is still going to be in some sort of a turn
Okay.
based on like whose turn it is, and you've got like I think you have a party of it's still a party of 3, and then the monsters get a say as far as like when they act as well. But very different than the old school turn-based where like you make your selection and then once it's your turn to actually do the action, you're just sitting there and like watching the screen and all that stuff. But very different. But I too am the same like boat as you. Like I love Hideo Kojima and like his brilliant works of art that he releases every so often when he blesses us with his creativity.
Sure. Yeah. Death Stranding 2 coming to a theater near you. Very excited.
Dude, I can't wait. Is it coming to an actual theater?
No. It's
the game's coming out?
Yeah. So I think it's coming out next year. Did you play Death Stranding at all? Was that on your radar?
I played through the entire thing, dude. So good.
I played through it right as COVID kicked off. My friend loaned me a copy, and then literally later that week, our boss was like, "Hey, don't come in for a couple weeks." And I was like, I guess I'm gonna play Death Stranding and realizing
perfect timing.
Well, yeah, perfect or imperfect almost, because it was really like there were a couple of moments playing that game. I was like, fuck, is this my life now? You know what I mean? Like, it was like, am I gonna some dude with like a meter of packages and parcels like stacked up on a rucksack gonna be showing up at my door years from now? Like it was anyway. I kind of wonder how
it's
much.
Probably weird.
Yeah, it was very. I was like, this is a little too much. I wonder how much of that is gonna carry over into Death Stranding 2. If it's gonna be the same, like, the story around it does not match the energy that is represented in the meat of the game, which is you're walking around delivering packages and avoiding like whatever,
and avoiding the oil monsters.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get the oil on you. You know what I mean? I wonder how much of that, like, I personally, I wouldn't mind it being a little more shooty. I would not be mad if Death Stranding 2 was a little more trigger happy, but we'll see. I know Kojima's very famously like, hey, non-lethal options, like tase people, knock them out, whatever. So
use the tranquilizer gun instead of the USP 45 Snake.
Exactly. Yeah, knock them out, get their dog tags, you know what I mean?
Put them in the wall locker.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hey,
that was one of the hardest parts about the second Metal Gear Solid game is like I remember the graphics being awesome, but you could like put everybody in a wall locker. You just shake them, you take their dog tag, you put them in the wall locker, and then you unlock stuff with it.
I remember being very frustrated by that because I remember how easy it was to get both the bandana and stealth in the first game. Was just like play through it once, do the noble thing, resist torture, play through it again, let the girl die, and then you're both infinite ammo and stealth. You can have a straight up just like a God mode playthrough. In Metal Gear Solid 2, you had to shake people down for their dog tags, and I was like, dude, this is gonna take me freaking forever.
But it was so epic though. Like the first time you meet Vamp, oh my god,
it was Metal Gear Solid 2. I will say the music in Metal Gear Solid 2 undefeated. When you go into a boss battle and I don't know what composer they hired who was like sax guy go, and it's like you know what I mean, and it's just
it was awesome,
goes off. But I don't know. I'll have to bring
like when you're fighting. Is that guy's name? Was it Fat Man, the dude that was in the bomb suit?
Fat Man was in the bomb suit. You fight Vamp, and then there was Fortune who had the little transmitter thing on her. The bullets couldn't hit her. And was there? Who's the fourth?
God, it's so freaking creative, man. It's so
goofy too. It's like it's one of those things like objectively explaining Metal Gear Solid to someone, especially like if you tee it up like this is a very serious like military tactical shooter, and then you're like, and there's a girl who is impervious to bullets, or there's a guy who rides around on rollerblades and plants bombs on stuff. Like
oh, by the way, this dude with a P90 jumps on top of a Harrier and is shooting at you.
Yeah. This guy is a fucking vampire. He doesn't die. You shoot him in the head, he literally comes back to life. Anyone objectively is going to be like, this game sounds fucking stupid, but it was one of the best video game experiences of my life.
That sounds dumb. I don't want to play that. But it's actually really good, bro. I promise. I promise. You gotta play it.
Hear me out.
Hear me out.
Hear me out. Hey, that's probably going to do it for this week. Man, I just cannot say enough nice things about my dear friend Kagan Dunlap, who stepped in literally last minute. I called him on the phone yesterday. I was like, "Hey, man, I need a audible from you," and he jumped in, didn't hesitate, not a bit. So, hey, I just wanted to say thank you so much, man, for stepping in for Cody. And being my co-pilot this week. That means a whole lot. Last thing, I'll open it up for you. If you got anything you want to plug or tee up, or just tell us where you can find you.
No, man. I appreciate you extending the offer. Like I like working with people. Like I want to do more other people's podcasts and other people's stuff, because it gives people a little bit more insight into who I am. Because I don't really get to like show a lot about who I am as a person in short form content. That's why I want to get more into the long form stuff, because it gives people an opportunity to get to know me a little bit better. And also obviously, like if, you know, a dude like you is asking like, hey man, you mind help me out with this? Like, of course, if I'm not busy or have something planned already, like I'm 100% down, like, you know, cause especially if it's helping you out, like, you know, I appreciate you having me on. Like this has been fun. It's been a good conversation. Like you and I have a lot of similar interests. Like we've, you know, played a lot of the same video games, probably seen a lot of the same anime stuff. Like if you ever watch anime, I'm sure that, you know, we have similar tastes in a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, if people want to find me, they can just type, I mean, you can Google me and just find all my stuff that way. Probably it's just fine, you know?
And it is Kagan, not Keegan.
Yeah, Kagan, Kagan, last name Dunlap. If you type that in Google, all my socials pop up. It's easier to find that stuff.
Before I ever heard you say it, I got to say this is the last final thing. I was terrified that I was going to meet you in person or whatever like this and be like, what's up, Kagan? You're going to be like, it's Keegan.
Oh, no. It's usually the other way around, man. Everybody wants to call me Keegan. They want to put an E in there so bad because it just like feels like that's the right way. And I'm always like, no, it's Kagan.
Well, maybe this man's whole life has been a typo. Let me just clear it up. Yeah.
It has been. I've literally since I was a child, bro. I'm telling you.
Kagan goes way harder, man. Stick with it. I like it. Hey, team. Thank you for tuning in. Episode 30. Appreciate it. Should be back to normal programming next week. Wish you little Baja blessings on your head. Thanks again, Kagan Dunlap. See you next week.
Appreciate it, man.